Whom the Gods Fear by Wdowski. Chapter 41. Glen looked at Captain Mahan. Can you excuse us? Glen gently took Dr. Hogan by her arm and led her to a more private corner of the stone-walled farmhouse. He looked down at her. She seemed angry at him for even suggesting that she flee without him. I think it is best we prepare for the worst. No point staying with me if I get killed in the next assault. You can still make an escape into those woods. Flowara and her family will help you find refuge at some other homestead far from Demi and his men. You are irresponsible, Glen Yeager. I'm irresponsible? What are you talking about? Talking about dying? You cannot die. You have to be here for me. I need you. Do you not have a sense of responsibility to me? I am being responsible. I am thinking of you. That is why I want you to run and be safe as we hold them off as long as we can. He was confused by her response and became teary-eyed and angry. Then, I do not want you talking about you dying. Calm down. Glen said to her before remembering, it is the worst thing one can say to a woman who is not calm. She slapped him. The room all turned to them. You have no right to tell me to calm down. Glen lowered his voice, hoping that would calm her down. I am sorry. I should not have said that. I do not plan on dying. The others in the room returned to their duties. There are though many things out of a man's control. Not wanting to make more of a scene, she jerked her arm from his hold and stormed off without saying another word. From his northern camp, Demi with Shoma observed the two unmanned probe pods descend from high orbit and land precisely within the fortified compound of the homestead. What is that, Dorwa? Shoma asked as several of Demi's men approached him. The Polo must have made repairs on their navigation system and sensors. One of his men, with great alarm, answered. I do not understand, Dorwa. Do we know if the Polo is armed? Asked another crewman. If they are, they can bombard our positions from orbit. The man nervously looked up into the sky. Demi knew from the runabout crew that made the attack on the Polo that she had weapon turrets on her hull. He did not inform his men of this fact. As a starship captain, he knew of the massive devastation an orbiting weapons platform could do to them. With the loss of the runabouts and the antimatter rifles, he had no means to strike back at the Polo to prevent them from striking from orbit. If they could, they'd be firing down on us now, not dropping spare parts. His observation calmed his men. Demi, glimpsing up, realized that when they hit their bridge, they must have knocked out the Polo's weapons control system. Demi knew that once the Polo does repair their weapon systems, it will be the destruction of his army. He needed to defeat Glen as soon as possible. Were those things that landed in their compound? Shoma asked again. I am guessing they are either sending down more plasma energy backs or the parts they need to repair their shuttles. Demi answered. They will get away. You cannot allow them to return to their home world. Shoma snuggled up against Demi. You must destroy them before they can. She is right. If we let them escape, they will let the Earth know where we are, a crewman said in earnest. We should hit them now. Once we take their position, we will have their shuttles and repair parts. With the antimatter rifles recaptured and we repair their shuttles, we can finish off their ship, another crewman excitedly advocated. We are still waiting for the wagons. We won't attack until they arrive. We cannot attack until then. Demi made it clear to his men, and Shoma, they will not attack prematurely, yet he knew that time was now against them. On the far side of the gas giant, the Polo found the perfect small irregular satellite in a 1 GK distance from its adopted parent planet. It took the Polo 2 days to find and reach the natural satellite that was only a few kilometers in diameter. With such a low mass, it had nearly no gravitational pull of its own, making it ideal for the minebots to cut a chunk off its mineral-rich surface and wrangle the piece back to the Marco Polo. Once in the Polo's hangar bay, the workbots and ship's technicians would begin the process of extracting and refining the necessary raw materials for the 3D printers. Mr. Yeager, we have had a small mishap. I am not surprised. What is it, Captain Rubel? We were able to get a perfect piece for the raw elements we need. The workbots wrangling the rock into position for the gravitational guidance system to take hold, but just as the rock was about to enter the hangar, we had an unexpected short of the gravitational guidance system. The rock hit hard against one side of the space doors. One of the doors is now jammed and cannot close properly, meaning you cannot reseal the hangar deck to the outside. Yes. The captain's image responded on Glen's forearm comm screen. How long to repair the door? At least another day. Once we can get it closed and sealed, we can depressurize the hangar bay and start properly refining the rock. Good news is we are already en route to you. The maintenance bots have started the repairs as we head back. I have suited up technicians starting to extract the needed materials from the rock. We should be in orbit above you by your tomorrow afternoon. The doors should be repaired by that time. We can then speed up greatly the process. Wdowski figures we can get the 3D printers to start spitting out the first needed parts in 24 hours. If you want the parts you will need for the shuttles first, he predicts at least 2 days to get them all done. If you want me to do weapons control first, Granite's techs say we can get that done in little more than a day. Understood. Make weapons control your first priority. I think we are going to need fire support from you as soon as possible. Oh, and thanks for the gifts in the probes. Aye, Mr. Yeager. I hope they help. Rubel ended his transmission. Flowara walked up to Glen. She looked extremely worried. Dorwa, has there been any word from my father? Glen was not sure how to answer the young girl. Their lack of contact with Aroth troubled him deeply. He feared the worst. I have not heard from him yet. Your father knows these areas well, yes? Yes, Dorwa. I am sure and hopeful he is safe. Glen tried to convince himself, not just the girl, that her father was safe. He thought of the old saying his mother would tell him, no news is good news. He hoped in Arotha's case this was very true. Please, Dorwa, let me know as soon as you hear from him. I and my family are very worried about him. I will, Flowara. The girl thanked Glen and went back to her mother's and younger sister. And walked up to him, is not like you to lie. I didn't lie. I am hopeful. He defended his actions. So, you are talking to me again? Yes. And answered curtly, yet you are not sure he's safe. Are you? Of course not, but I am also not sure he is not safe. Saying the glass is half full is not a lie. When it is. No, it is not, but is also still half empty. Some would say that omission of facts is a type of lie. Perhaps, but in all honesty, as much as I do strive to be honest, it fails even me to be completely honest at all times. I wouldn't be honest if I told you otherwise. Well, if it means anything to you, Glen Yeager, you are still the most honest person I have ever known. I have always felt that the lies people make only make matters worse. Especially the lies we tell ourselves. The problem with that philosophy is that most people cannot deal with the truth, especially the truth about themselves. And confessed. I know before you wanted to be honest with me, to prepare me for something I did not want to happen. The truth is I don't want to live without you. You really are at times too honest and try too hard to be reasonable in a world where most people live by appearances, not facts. You are not the first to say that about me. When I used to do trade negotiations with the non-member nations of the EG, many of my contacts in those cultures, especially in North Korea, looked at my honesty as a character flaw. They told me I was naive and ignorant as a child. Imagine living in a society where honesty is considered a character flaw? My grandfather had told me that when he had lived in communist China. It was the same for him. They treated him as a fool for his honesty. Only the young at that time in China respected him for it, but those Chinese who had grown up during the Cultural Revolution, the Tiananmen Square massacre, those his own age or older, perceive his honesty as a major character flaw in a dishonest society. The Chinese under communist rule even called the lack of honesty in their society the trust crisis. As you know, 2 of my grandparents were from China. They told me the same stories as a little girl. They also warned me to keep the truth to myself. Not to let others know my true thoughts or feelings, or they will use it against me. My American father taught me that as long as I was true to myself, it didn't matter what others knew about me. And answered, I see a lot of my father in you, Glen. I hope when we finally return to Earth, you will introduce me to your dad. I will. I would love to.